Hey guys, Aaronoticz here. Let's talk about The Promised Neverland. The Promised Neverland, a sci-fi mystery shonen that is serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump and adapted by the studio Cloverworks, which is a studio that produced last season or last season's mega hit Seishun wa Butaya. You know what? Just here. This anime here. Now, alongside a few others. Now, the one thing that is apparent about the show as you watch it is its overall quality. From the animation, to the music, to the writing, and the characters, they're all very much on point. And the story is interesting, to say the least. So, spoilers by the way. So the story of The Promised Neverland centers around three outstanding kids by the names of Emma, Ray, and Norman, which all have their distinct characteristics and personalities. They live in an orphanage home alongside other children. This orphanage home, this house that they call, is run by a woman by the name of, I guess the show never really reveals her name, but she's called Mama by the children, so we'll call her that. One day, one of the children that was on her way to being adopted by a happy family forgot her stuffed toy. Thinking they could still make it, Norman and Emma went to deliver the toy to her, even going as far as passing through the gate that they were forbidden from doing. There they find out the truth about the house and the world that they were living in. The truth that there were monsters outside the gate that kills them and sells their corpses like cattle. And the house that they were living in was nothing more than a farm that nurtured and fostered them for the purpose of selling and eating them. Typical anime stuff. Horrified by this, Emma and Norman, alongside Ray, hatch a plan for them and everyone else in the house to escape. Supposedly. Right off the bat, I want to appreciate Cloverworks for doing a great job on the animation and art style of this show. They really did a good job translating the manga's art style into anime form, and it looks really good, really clean. The use of CG, framing, camera angles, they were all phenomenal. One of my absolute favorite scenes was in episode 9 when Norman, after hearing he was gonna be shipped out, was basically panicking, but he couldn't let it show on his face because he didn't want Emma to worry. The way they mimicked the camera following him in his weirdly robotic movement as he was walking to fetch water from Emma really gave off this kind of eerie and disturbing feeling towards the scene that accurately represented how Norman felt in that moment. Then the back and forth between close-up shots and wide shots that they used in the next scene really gave a distinct, uncomfortable feeling to it. And then when we finally get to see his face, the facade that he was trying so hard to keep, that he was in total control of his emotions and that he wasn't scared, quickly vanishes as we see the tormented and panicked look on the poor kid's face before once again stealing his nerves and controlling his emotions as he went back to Emma's room. It was a great scene and is the example of the type of quality that this show abides by. The music used was also really good. The opening and ending was, at least from a sound perspective, really good, really catchy. But what I truly appreciate about the opening is the fact that it never reveals any spoilers, or it never gives away the major twist that this show has. I mean, it sounds like that should be a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised at how many anime openings actually spoil their show's twist right from the get-go. And I don't mean like you do it to foreshadow things or subtly hint at it. I mean blatantly. Obviously and blatantly. The worst kind. But aside from the opening and ending, the actual score of the show is also really good. I absolutely love the moments where the score overpowers the scenes.
器になるでしょ。泥船が必ずしも沈むとは限らないよ。馬鹿げてるかもね。僕もエマも正気じゃないよ。完全に血迷ってる。ほっとけないだろ。くそ、ほっとけるわけねえだろ。
It really sells you on the emotions that you should be feeling towards those particular moments. Then there's the sound effects that they use. The thing about the show is that it's somewhat a quiet show, and so when the tension builds up, the focus on Foley sound effects really draws you in and sells you on the thrilling aspect of it. Especially when you combine that with the cinematography and the voice actors doing their jobs perfectly, it really makes for an immersive and thrilling experience. Then we move on to the characters and their characterization. Right now I'm only going to be talking about the three leads and Mama herself, because they're the most interesting out of the rest. Not to say that the others are bad, just that they are the main focus of the show. So they get more development, they get more screen time, they get more room to grow. What makes the three leads interesting is that they're all somewhat smart and intelligent, but in different ways that make them interesting in their own right. Not one of them feels the same, and they all feel essential to the plot. Not just one, but all of them. Emma is a leader. She is kind and caring, but she isn't naive like what you'd expect from her archetype. Sometimes it seems like she isn't rationally thinking, but she is. She's just really, really, really kind. Now, Ray and Norman are like probably the most interesting out of the whole cast, because they are kind of like yin and yang. They match a perfect balance with each other. They're both extremely smart and calculating, but Ray is more manipulative, while Norman's more rational. Ray is still a nice person deep down, and he does feel guilt about using others, but he's just the type of guy that is willing to do whatever it is necessary to accomplish what he wants and protect the people he cares about. Now, Mama is an interesting case. At the beginning of the series, we are led to believe that she is a bad guy, that she enjoys this scenario that she is put in. But as the series progresses, we get more and more hints at who she actually is as a person, which all leads up to the reveal at the end of the show that she is but a survivor in every sense of the word, and that the only way that she could survive was by accepting the fate that she was dealt with, something that Emma, Norman, and Ray refused to do. Also, that twist at the end was a nice surprise that makes a lot of sense, I guess, if you really think about it. That also succeeds in making her story more tragic. The writing in this show is some of the best I've seen. The world building, for example. 12 episodes in, and we barely know anything about the world that these characters live in. But we do have an idea of it. We do have a basic idea based on what we've seen already. This type of world building is perfect for long-running stories like The Promised Neverland, because it gives them more materials, more possibilities to work with and explore in subsequent seasons later down the line. Then, the mystery aspect of the show is also top-notch and always gets you on the edge of your seats. It's thrilling and immersive, and the payoffs and resolutions are satisfying. The dialogue is great, and the setups are interesting. The actual escape was brilliant and well done. And the best thing about the show is that it ends in the most perfect way possible. That if the story ends there, and that you don't get any more seasons, you don't get to see any more seasons, there's no more stories left to tell, that was it, you'd still feel contented with what you just seen. Now, before I give my conclusions about the show, I just want to talk about what I expect to see in subsequent seasons. First, Norman. I want to see what they'll do to him and how they'll handle his character moving forwards. Obviously, if you've watched the show, he does get shipped out and is potentially killed, but this is anime we're talking about, god damn it. Unless I see a body, he's not dead. Second, I want to see the struggles and the consequences of the escape that Emma and the rest pulled off, for both the people that was left behind and the people that was able to escape. Third, I want to see more of this world, this monster society that they've hinted upon. I want to learn more about it, I want to see it. That's basically it. So now, on to my conclusions. Wow. This show is probably the most refreshing show of the winter 2019 season. It was definitely a nice surprise, at least for me. The thing is, I had no idea beforehand what this series was about. Before going into it, I didn't read the synopsis. I didn't read anything pertaining to it. So I really didn't know anything about it. But I knew it was a Weekly Shonen Jump, a manga, and then just assumed that I enjoyed because, it's Weekly Shonen Jump. They generally can't do any wrong. I just didn't think that I'd enjoy it this much, Like, this is, I think, the anime of the season. Well, I'm still quite conflicted if it's this or Mob Psycho 100. Either way, it's still a really good show. So in short, The Promised Neverland is a quality anime that everyone and their mothers should watch, regardless of tastes, opinions, and blah 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 blah. This was Aaronoticz, blasting off. Peace.
シャララいつかきっと